Good morning, good Erev Yom Tov. Special thank you to Rav Nachman Fried and to Rav Zeiplin and all those who are part of the being Masada that we should be able to learn together. We're in Likutei Moharan, Tinyana, the second Chelek, in Torah number 24, and we're in the Mitzva Gedola Liyos B'Simcha Tamid. It's a huge Torah, not so much in terms of words, but in terms of depth. I mean, that goes for everything Rav Nachman says. Rabbeinu Zal Rav Nachman, he actually said a lot of very, very powerful claims. I hope one day it'll be shaykh to go through them. But one of them is that Ani Nahar, I'm a river. Asher metaher, ha-metaher, that's a very different language than just Asher. Ha-metaher mikol haktamim. Ha-metaher means the purifier. Mikol haktamim, of every imaginable stain. So a ketem is an interesting terminology. It refers to a stain that is penetrating. It goes inside whatever it's a stain. So it's not on the surface, it goes in. So if it's on a fabric, it's in the fabric. It's not on the fabric. You can just brush it off or blow it off or just wash it with one quick wipe of a wet cloth. A ketem, it means it's really gone inside. That's how the Radak explains a ketem. So to remove a stain that's deeply inside, like a tattoo, for example, there aren't really good ways of getting rid of the tattoos. I think maybe they've got more sophisticated nowadays, but it's a very powerful ink that is permanent. It used to be, I don't know if it's got any better, but it used to be the only way if you wanted to remove a tattoo, not you personally, but if you knew someone who wanted to remove a tattoo, you had to burn it off. So it's extremely painful because it's permanent. It's a permanent stain, so to speak. Literally, that actually is. But Rav Nachman making the claim that Ani Nahar, I am a river. Now, a Nahar is not the same as Nachal, which he also uses the lashon of Nachal Neveh Mekor Chachma, which is a pasuk from Mishlei. I thought I'd quickly mention it because the pasuk begins. It's in Perek Yud Ches, pasuk Dalet. Mayim amukim divrei fi ish. Deep are the waters of the mouth of a person. Ish is always referring usually to Gever. Gever is a person who's in control. Nachal Neveh Mekor Chachma. Nachal is also a river, but we're going to see in a few moments what the difference is. Neveh Mekor Chachma, that is actually flowing from the origin of wisdom. So in this metaphor, that means it's a river that's actually coming from the origin of wisdom, which is of course Hashem. So that means going through all the universes, all the way till Atzilus, and I imagine Ak as well, and being Yonik from the actual real Makar, the real source, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. So that in itself is quite a claim. But the difference between Nachal, I just thought it would be interesting to be Mayan very briefly, and a Nahar. A Nahar is actually a fast-flowing river. Nahar is from the lashon of Naharot or Maher, quickly. The water's going very quickly. So that has the power to be metaher, to cleanse out whatever you put inside, because you've got to immerse in it. Ani metaher mikol haktamim. So my simple understanding of that claim is that anyone who immerses inside a river of this definition will get all the ktamim, mikol haktamim, every imaginable stain, no matter how deep penetrating it is. Rav Nachman has the power to remove that, and the reason why is because a nachal, which is not a nahar, a nachal can also be a river, but it's referring to where you've got a deep crevice or deep canyon rather, just between two valleys, like fjords in Norway. If any of you've been to Scandinavia, very, very deep, and the water that's flowing through there, that is a huge area. So the water there cuts out the ground beneath until it's a very, very deep, very, very deep. So that fits in the pasuk which Rav Nachman is quoting from, Mayim amukim divrei pi ish. The water's extreme, they're very, very, very deep. That's coming from the mouth of a person who the words are coming from his mouth, that's coming from his mind, that is actually, Yonik is actually flowing from Mekor Chachma, the actual real source of wisdom, which of course is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So most of us, I learned from this Rebbe and this Rebbe, from this Sefer, this Shiur on on an iPad, whatever it is. But what Rav Nachman is basically saying is that he got it straight from the source. So there's almost literally nothing in between. That's why it's very unusual that no one really knows who Rav Nachman's Rebbe was, because we know actually the Baal Shem HaKadosh, he had Achi Hashiloni, who was actually a Navi and was in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu and also Eliyahu Navi. So that's quite extraordinary. But we don't have it, as far as I know, help me please open my eyes if there's any difference. This means that he got everything from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he did it through his Speidos. He did it from just begging and crying, and every time he came to a new Madrega, the next step was, I've got to have more. And he would cry about it. He would beg and beg, because he felt like a nobody and a nothing until he got that, and then it was still more. So this is who we're being yonik from. This is who we're getting our mitzvah Gedola liyos is to exist b'simcha, inside simcha. So we pointed out what we covered last time is that the mara shechera atzvos sitra achra yetzahara, everything that you want to, any name you want to give to this other side, which is contained in this black dot. The mitzvah Gedola liyos b'simcha means we are so immersed inside simcha that we can handle this. I thought a very simple metaphor. Imagine someone of the stature of, let's say, Elon Musk, who I don't know what he's worth today, how many hundreds of billions it is. It keeps fluctuating, but let's say it's 400 billion, just for argument's sake. So let's say you knew that you have in the bank, or many bank accounts, in total assets $400 billion, and just before you go to sleep, before Krich Malam Mita, you get a text that you've lost $1 million. It's just unaccounted for. It's gone. You've been scammed of $1 million. Are you going to still go to sleep tonight?
Sure.
Why are you going to go to sleep tonight? Why?
There's another 400 billion.
You got $399,999,000,000. I mean, it's my bank account is not scratched, so. It doesn't bother you because it's barely even a scratch. You need a microscope to see the scratch on this Rolls Royce. It's so small. You need it. It just doesn't count. It's so small. It's not even bottle b'shishim or b'elef. It's bottle. Even if it would be $1 billion, you're still probably going to go to sleep tonight. I'm guessing. Now that's 1,000 million. You're still going to go to sleep tonight. It doesn't bother you because your true assets are basically still untouched. So when we're talking about simcha, we're asking Hashem, please give us a simcha that is so deep and broad that we're immersed inside it, so that when Alam Haza hits us with all the Pekami Hazman and the Sitra Achra and the Yetzahara and the Baldava and the Mara Shchera and the Atzvas and whatever names we can come up for, it's not going to make a difference because our default is simcha, and the simcha is very real. So that's why Rav Nachman, which we Breslov, we will go through some of the things that he gives us as a list of why we should be b'simcha. Ani Zer Yisrael, that is everything, and that is very apropos for Erev Shavuos, because Ani Zer Yisrael started at Shavuos. Before Shavuos, a Jew was not a Jew unless he lived that lifestyle, but he didn't transfer to the next generation unless they lived that way. So Avram Avinu and Sarah Imenu were towering tzaddikim. Avram Avinu had from Keturah, who was Sarah's greatest, most accomplished of all her Talmidot. He gave birth to Yishmael. Yishmael was not a Jew. He didn't choose to live the life and values of his father. Esav is fathered and mothered by two of the greatest tzaddikim of the Avos and Imahos, Yitzhak and Rivka. He's not a Jew. He chose not to live the life of a Jew. It's only imprinted on us starting tonight, 3,333 years ago, is it? That at Har Sinai, it's permanent. And it's re-injected into the Shekhinah is re-injected, so to speak, into us. We lost it 40 days later. But otherwise, that is permanent. So once your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish. If your person's a Ger Tzedek, Jewish 100%, not 99.9. So Ani Zer Yisrael, Shelo Asani Goy, is really very apropos, because I've got to get into my mind. It's not just words. It's not a script. I'm happy because I'm not a Goy. I'm happy because I'm Zer Yisrael. It's beyond that. It's because Asher bachabanu mikolamim and Asher kidishanu, he made us different. Mavdil means completely separate. Mikolamim, how? The mitzvah itself, with his mitzvahs. So that's why I'm using this as an introduction to continue from the thread of last week, which is we're looking at the mitzvahs that actually you get any time of the day or night, the vast majority of them. So far, I've counted 117 mitzvahs of the mind. Some of them, I'm not going to get to them, but some of them, there's not a real makofar, it's an extension of the mitzvah we already have. So like Rabbeinu Zal says, you have a mitzvah to be done chav zchus on other people, and it's based on a pasuk, B'tzedek tishpoit amitecha, which Chazal on rep means have done it kol ha'adam l'chav zchus. So if I have to be done chav zchus on every person, so Rabbeinu Zal kind of is moisef. This is how Rabbi Kramer, my Rebbe, explained to me. So it's moisef myself. It's in the it's in the words kol adam. Well, I'm also an adam. So as long as I'm an adam, I have a mitzvah to be done chav zchus on myself as well. So once you go there, then you can look at a lot of mitzvahs bein adam lachaveiroi, where lotisna et achicha bilvavecha. Am I allowed to hate me? Or is the mitzvah only not to hate you? No, I'm not allowed to hate me either, because I'm also a Jew. Oh, what about haftarecha kamoicha? Oh, kamoicha. So I have to love me. So once you start, so to speak, engineering, not in an artificial way, every mitzvah bein adam l'chaverei, and you realize, oh my gosh, it's talking about me. So I have to be merachim, and I have to have chanun and rachum and rachamim and erech apayim on other people to emulate the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Or other people, does that include me? So do I have to be patient with me? Of course. So once you add those on, they're not really exactly, I'm going to say in Tariq, but it's a diuk, if you want to call it. There's a logical inference because I'm also a Jew, and therefore it applies to me too. Once you go there, then so far I've hit 117 mitzvahs, of which 94 are clearly actually numbered by the Rishonim as Tariq. So we've got 94 mitzvahs so far. 81 are counted in Sefer Charedim, but between the Smug, Ramban, and Sefer Yereim, you're up to about 94. So it's getting close to 100 mitzvahs. Now, why is that important to know? Because even if Has v'Shalom, I don't have tefillin now with me, I don't have tzitzis, and I don't have lulav and esrog, like a prisoner, Rabashkin talked about being in prison for 8.5 years, and it was very hard. He was put into in solitary confinement because he would have put on a yarmulke and tzitzis. So what have you got left? But when you realize, 1 second, I've got emunah, that's how he pulled himself together. No one can take that away from me. David HaMelech was in the bathhouse and he felt naked of all the mitzvahs because he was, until he realized, 1 second, I got bris milah. And bris milah we know from Sifrei of Nachman, that it's all about tikkun bris, and David HaMelech was huge on that. David HaMelech reminded himself, I've got bris milah wherever I go. Sefer Charedim counts it as a mitzvah deraisa, counts it in Tariq. That is a mitzvah deraisa that a person remembers they've got bris milah on their body, and it's literally Hashem branded on us, on our body. You belong to me. You're not an eved of Parai, Pera. You're not stuck in Mitzrayim, Meitzayam. You're not limited. You're a Jew, and you got Tariq mitzvahs. And I'm not even going to go into the small print. Oh boy, there's a lot of small print. That it's unlimited what we're able to accomplish. So we actually have a mitzvah deraisa to remember that we got bris milah in order to have the simcha that you, Hashem, branded on me. I'm an Eved Hashem. So Sefer Haredim adds on when you're wearing tefillin and tzitzis and you've got mezuzah on the door, so you're, so to speak, clothed and surrounded by mitzvahs that remind me of my uniform. This is my uniform, but even without tzitzis and tefillin, without clothes, a person is branded. So we're just going through, I'm going to go through this very quickly, mitzvahs that are part of the mind, that are included when we get to Likutei halachas, and the Kitzur talks about looking for all the reasons why I owe myself simcha. So we're trying to increase the assets of our simcha bank so that we know what to rely upon. So if a person knows that they're worth $500 billion and they lose $1 million, it really is, it's completely insignificant. Even if he loses $1 billion, it's completely insignificant. But what's beautiful here is it's way better, more superior than money, because no one can take what I know of who I am away from me. And that's what we carry with us into eternity. So we talked about a few mitzvahs last week. I'm not going to say them. Mitzvah of Emunah, mitzvah that nothing else exists except for Kodesh Baruch Hu, Hashem is one. Love Hashem, and these are multipliers. Every mitzvah that's mentioned more than once in the Torah, as many times as it's mentioned, that's how many mitzvahs you get for that mitzvah. So when you have Emunah, because it's mentioned multiple times, you get it for every number of times it's mentioned. According to Malas HaTorah, which is the Vilna Gaon's brother, Rabbi Avram Kramer, he claims from his brother, the Vilna Gaon, that actually it includes Nach as well. So as many times you find a mitzvah in Nach and Chumash, that's how many times you get that mitzvah. He actually brings there also, there's a Gemara in Sotah, the Lamed Zayin going on to Lamed Ches, right at the bottom of Lamed Zayin going into Lamed Ches, which talks about every mitzvah is actually 4 mitzvahs. Every single mitzvah is immediately 4 mitzvahs. Why? Because we have a mitzvah and it's based on the pasuk, Lilmaid ulelamed lishmor v'lasos. So there's a mitzvah to learn, a mitzvah to teach Torah, which Rambam counts that it's one mitzvah. The mitzvah to learn is in order to be able to teach, in order to pass on to the next generation. So B'shinantam levanecha is on the predicate that I know what I'm teaching, so I have to learn it myself. So Lilmaid or Lelamed Lishmor, which the Marasha on that Gemara brings, is very interesting. Shmira, how do you guard a mitzvah? How do you guard a mitzvah? So he brings it. It sounds like a chiddush, but when you think about it, it's very logical. Shmira in this context is remembering. How do you guard a mitzvah? You remember the mitzvah. You don't forget it. That's how you guard it. So it's actually taking place over here. It's not just talking about like a photographic memory. It's just taking out time to memorize the mitzvahs that at least apply nowadays. There's 279 according to the Chavas Chaim out of Tariag. So at least I should remember those.
That's the mitzvah Shmei v'Shematu. Rashi says in Shmei v'Shematu that Tishma b'Chudesh.
He says
Tishma b'Yushin v'Tishma b'Chudesh. That you should be chazering the old and.
Right, in order not to forget. That's the Marsha as well. Yeah, there's Rashi brings that in on Vayikra in Mechukah Isai. I think so. Is that Chavav? Okay, so
this also solves the problem we asked last week. How could you have so many machshavas at once? If the Rebbe says you can't have multiple machshavas,
right?
So at least here, if you put in your zikaron,
right,
it seems to resolve that.
Right, that person, because he knows he can find it because he remembers it.
So he has the mitzvah when he learns of Lilmoid Ulamed Vilishma.
Yes.
But does he get another 4 when it's Lasos?
Excellent. Lasos, it would appear I can't do till I do it. Right? So this is where it becomes so glaring. Hashem is almost literally looking for excuses to give us extraordinary eternity, because we have a mitzvah of Korban Pesach, which in Perek Yud Beis in Parshas Bo. So when we got the mitzvah to bring the Korban Pesach, the pasuk says V'chein Yasu, and we did it. V'chein Ban Yisrael Yasu, the Jewish people did it. So Rashi points out straight away. He's actually quoting a Chazal. I don't remember where the Gemara is. That the tzivui was given to us on Yud Nisan. We couldn't do it till Yud Dalet. So what do you mean V'chein Yasu? And we did it. It hadn't happened yet. So Chazal tell us the moment you commit to doing a mitzvah, Hashem counts it as though you actually did it. So you get the schar now, and when you do it, you actually get another bonus. It just doesn't stop. So based on that, that's why Lilmoid Ulelamed Lishmor V'Lasos are 4 mitzvahs in every single one mitzvah. And by the way, tonight, if you're into the Tikkun and you're doing Tariag, so there are quite a few Rishonim and Acharonim who make the point that when learning Tariag, even if you're only saying the description of each mitzvah very briefly, but if you start with in mind that I want to be Mekayim every single one of these, Lilmod Lamed Lishmor V'Lasos, so you get all 4, so it's 4 times 613. Just by mentioning it. Yeah, the Ben Ish Chai brings this. He's very big into this. That person should. He said if a person would learn tag mitzvahs every day, and it doesn't take that long if you just learn the kitzur of the description of the actual mitzvah, or just the pasuk. If you know what the pasuk, and there's lots of lists of them. Poel Tzedek from the Shach, He wrote a whole listing. Rambam has a listing which is just one line, not even a whole full sentence per mitzvah. And in that way, you can literally in minutes do all Tariq mitzvahs, and with that in mind that you want to be Mekayim it, so you get 613 mitzvahs per day. Now, what we're saying though, based on the Gemara is times 4.
613.
It's really 613. Then the Gemara adds, which is quite extraordinary, that we were given the Torah 3 times. Once at Har Sinai, once in Arave Moav, before we entered Eretz Yisrael, and the 3rd time was Har Eval. So there is a dissenting opinion that says the 3rd time was not Har Eval, but he counts when we were in by the Mishkan. So either way, we entered, and it's all based on the psukim there. When we went to Har Eval, we actually went there the first day we arrived after the Yarden. It's not mentioned through Perek Ches in Yeshua, so it looks like it happened later. But the many prakim are not sequenced in chronological order. So actually, Chazal tell us that as soon as we crossed the Yarden, we went to Har Eval, and that's where we entered the bris again with Hashem. That was the beginning of our entree into Eretz Yisrael. So there were 48 brises. There was Lilmod Lamed Lishmor V'Lasais times all the Tariq mitzvahs times it was 16 times. I'm not going into it now, but there were 8 do tos, 8 not to dos in the curses and the brachas, and each one of those is multiplied by the 4 Lilmod Lamed Lishmor V'Lasais, and then you multiply that by 613, so it comes to about 117,696, I think, mitzvahs per mitzvah. So these are just multipliers. You and I can't read, the math is impossible to comprehend, because you start hitting billions and billions and billions once you start multiplying the mitzvah of Simcha. Because Simcha makes the mitzvah 1,000 times worth more than the mitzvah, same mitzvah done not by Simcha. Rav Arush brings that the Yetzer Hara is more interested in a person doing mitzvahs, not by Simcha, then he'll leave him alone. Because eventually Hasman can very easily lead to Yish, because what's it count? But when a person does it per Simcha, that Yetzer Hara has a very hard time. And that's why Rav Nachman, I believe it's in Sicha Chaf, in Sicha Saran, he says this is the hardest of all of Avodas. And it has to be, because if it's worth the most, then obviously it's going to have Zeh Keneged Zeh, Zeh Lumazeh, Aseh Elokim. Hashem has to create forces that will try to distract me constantly or consistently from doing a mitzvah b'simcha. So it gets much, it goes, the numbers are exponential, because once you take the mitzvah and payah, that Talmud Torah is Keneged Kulam, so how many mitzvahs is each word of the Torah worth? According to the Vilna Gaon, it's each ois. So now you've got 613 mitzvahs, or 612 per word of Torah. It gets impossible to be Messiah. So that's why in LM2, you and I can't fathom the math that's going on over there. Okay, so being in fear of Hashem, that's mentioned 52 times. So every time you avoid an Aveira, or you feel awe or fear for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you got 52 mitzvahs right there, according to Malas HaTorah. Yeah.
Where does it say that Simcha makes the mitzvah like 1,000 times?
So that's brought in Shar HaSimcha of Orchot Tzadikim. So in the section he breaks the chapters into Sha'arim. So in Shar HaSimcha he says it's Elef Yados. It's 1,000 times worth more. I personally think it's an exaggeration, and I'll explain. In the opposite, 1,000 is the highest unit number. It's the highest unit number in Tanakh. There's no number above 1,000. Any number above 1,000 in Tanakh is a multiple of 1,000. Like Rivavos is 10,000, but it's not a new unit number. It's a multiple of 1,000. Mm-hmm. So I don't know for sure. This is just my personal speculation, that you couldn't have said a higher unit number than 1,000, and already it's like even 1,000 is a lot. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just impossible to know really in Hashem's reckoning, because every person does a mitzvah. When you do it b'simcha, it's a different level of simcha as well. So that being the case, I'm guessing that 1,000 is actually a really exaggeration on the low side. It's
Gonna find a bigger number.
So that's the highest number that you can
actually multiply itself, because you might be b'simcha the fact that you were able to do b'simcha. So now, and the position that I'm in, and you can
it keeps multiplying. So, and you might even remember, like there was a Gemara in Brachas, I don't remember, there's a test where there was I can't remember the name, there was a brother of a particular Amora who was smiling all day, and they want to know what the reason was. He said because he davened nates that morning.
It was Semach Gedola Tefillah.
Semach Gedola Tefillah by the
Sikim. Says that it's better net. According to the Gemara says it.
It's Semach Gedola Tefillah. So because he hit that moment, which Chazal say, the smile didn't leave him the whole day. So if he's besimcha the whole day because of that one mitzvah. So according to Rabbi Chesky, what's happening is that he's multiplying. Because every time he remembers that he did the mitzvah besimcha, and that's really what Rav Nachman is talking about when he talks about being done chavschus on ourselves and reish pei base, the finding the nekudas tovas. I put on tefillin this morning. Oh, you put on Rabbeinu Tam as well. Oh, you learned a couple of sifim in Shulchan Aruch before you took your tefillin and talis off. Oh, you wore talis cotton, talis gadol. It's every nekuda tova, and it's such an interesting language. Nekuda is a point. So every point in a Sefer Torah, or you're writing the mezuzah or the tefillin, the touch of the tip of the quill on the parchment, that starts a point, and the nekuda, like the apex of the yud, is the highest level in yud kei vav kei, whatever. So it comes out that a nekuda tova is the smallest dot you can possibly come to, and that's exactly what Rav Nachman wants us to know, that bissel's oichet good, a little bit. How much is a little bit? The smallest that you can possibly think of, that's already very good. To be done chavschus on oneself, and to be done chavschus on other people, certainly to be done chavschus on a Kodesh Baruch Hu, which is actually a mitzvah d'oraisa, and the smug, he counts it, it's number 17 of the assays, he counts it as a mitzvah d'oraisa to be done chavschus on a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that whatever happens is l'tov.
What's the essay?
He brings it from just like a father is miyasa his son, and it's coming from love. It's not because he hates his son that it brings Yisurin on him. Ken, I don't remember the lashon. Ken Hashem Yisareka. Yeah. I have it in the document here. I'm putting this into a small booklet so I can give it out properly, as opposed to large like this. So we have every nekuda tova counts. That's really and the more we get into it, the more we remind ourselves of it, the easier it is that when, not if, when the marash chara kicks in, when my wife gets angry with me justifiably, or one of my kids is upset and down, and nothing I can say is like picking them up. So what ends up happening is the fact that we are chazering in our minds all the nekudas tovas of the mitzvahs of the mind, that can help a person have a bank account to fall upon, so that when things go wrong, I can get stuck there in the moment, but I'm not going to get sucked in for good. And there's so many things that Chas v'Shalom can pull us down for a long time, weeks or months, and then Chas v'Shalom would get ill from it, like this Torah is really talking about. So to answer your question specifically, I've got here, the smug. Oh, sorry, the smug and the smug. So the smug in assay number 17, and the smug, mitzvah hey, Rabbeinu Yonah also agrees that when people do tshuva, this is the smug, they might find that they experience more suffering than before they did tshuva. So they might question Hashem, why are you doing this to me? I'm doing tshuva. But rather you get this mitzvah, when you accept that the suffering is probably to wipe out my mistakes, or to remind me to do more tshuva. So he brings it on. Why didn't I bring the pasuk? No, I didn't bring the pasuk here. Sorry. It's definitely Dvarim 7:17. Yeah, okay, but I
7:17 is
I'll find it for you in a second. 7:17. That's not it. Nope, that's not it. I don't have. I was reading the wrong footnote. Is it? Please, is it in 4? Maybe it's in 4. I think it's in 8. Okay. Daf sign Chazorah. Ken Hashem Elokecha Yasreka. Okay. I apologize. Okay, I'm not going to keep you waiting. So I'll have it for you for next week, and I'll put it probably in the notes.
Davening b'zchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're praying in the murder. What does that mean? To daven b'zchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
To be done chus, to be matzdik hadin, that whatever happens that appears to be ra, I'm saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can only be doing this l'tov. So that's a mitzvah a human being has in his relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's where Gamzul Tova comes from. Kol David Rachman El Tavarid Chayav Adam Levarech Al Hara, with the same simcha that he gives when he makes a bracha Hatov Meitiv on when he has a Psura Tova. So going through this list very quickly now. Don't follow your thoughts. That's the huge one. Lo tatu rachri levavchem. Everyone agrees that's a mitzvah tamidi. Remember Hashem. We talked about that a bit last week, and also don't forget Hashem. Each one of these is one of they're counted in Tariag. Many of them not by Rambam. Rambam includes many of them in one mitzvah, especially the mitzvah of Emunah. But don't forget Hashem. Daven to Hashem. That mitzvah is constant. Wherever you are, whenever you are. All that we do in the Siddur is D'Rabbanan, but even Shemona Esrei was really an excuse. It's a platform for getting back into Hisbodus, which is what the 13 middle brachas were designed for, because it was understood. It's a discipline. The Hisbodus is a discipline, as much as it's doesn't have to be framed in any particular script, but it's still a discipline to actually make time to go to my therapist. So says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, really the mitzvah deraisa is all day long. And it doesn't cost anything. There are almost literally no restrictions except for foul-smelling place or in the bathroom. But otherwise, that's actually the mitzvah anytime, anywhere. Be a Kiddush Hashem, and the Sittel Katan brings that every single second a person thinks about, I'm willing to die for Kodesh Baruch Hu. I'm willing to be thrown into fire for Hashem. He gets this mitzvah. Be davuk to Hashem. That's Ledabek Boy. Rambam takes the side that it's referring to being Davuk B'yoidav, those who are close to Hashem and know Him, which is the Talmidei Chachamim, through marrying a daughter to a Talmid Chacham, doing Pakmatya, business with Talmid Chacham. This is where you come into contact with all of Chosh and Mishpat, hopefully, in seeing how they live their lives when it comes to business, and eating and drinking with the Talmid Chacham, because there's something to be seen there. Anyone who saw you see Rabbi Shimaya Morgenstern, Anissim David Kivak, all these special people. I remember Rabbi Segel, Meshra Shiva. These are extraordinary people. They're very, very, very careful with how they ate. So you saw that their minds were somewhere else. And Rabbeinu Zal brings, I think it's New Testament, that the greatest rotzen a person can experience is actually b'shas achila. It's that really means focusing in the moment, that preferably with my eyes closed, and actually not just enjoying the nitzotzes, which is what the taste is really created by. The taste comes from the nitzotzes of kedusha in the achila, but actually we know that everything, we've talked about this before, because this is what this Torah is really telling us, is that everything we think is affecting the entire body. That's why illness is caused by a lack of simcha. Simcha can cure the illness, and it can also prevent the illness. So in a very much same way, when a person's eating and their thoughts are on loving Hashem for the delicious food, and thanking Hashem for, that's on like a pshat level, thanking Hashem that this is nutritious, and especially if we're following Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in Perek Lamed Beis, easy to remember, Lev. He talks about many of the halachas that Rambam brings in Hilchos Deis in Perek Daled to do with ways to maintain health and avoid illness. So the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says to drink your food, don't eat it. That means chew it and chew it and chew it as many times as it takes till it's liquid, and then swallow. It's extremely kind to the stomach, but that's a conscious effort. So when I'm busy scrolling and looking at the latest, my mind is not so much on the eating. And lechatchila, I'm not even allowed to answer amen. And amen you get olam haba for. I'm not allowed to answer amen when there's food in my mouth, in case I might choke. But besides that, my mind is meant to actually be in the greatest level, though, is actually Ritzonos of Hashem. You're so good to me. I just want to be close to you. Please bring me closer to you. So all that is in. So that next one is emulate Hashem. Halachah b'drachav. So any mitzvah that Hashem demonstrates to us, chesed, b'gocholim, hachnasas orchim, etc., which are examples that the Torah gives of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's midas. So I'm supposed to emulate that. Erech Apayim is huge. Be tamim with Hashem. This is Tariag. This is in Tariag. Chesed Charedim, Ramban counts it. Tamim tiyeh im Hashem Elokecha. This was huge. It's so huge that when Rav Nosson was on his deathbed, he said, the only one thing I'm not sure of is if I really fulfilled the shiur, the measure of tamimus that Rabbeinu Zal intended, because tamimus is everything. The whole story of the Tam and the Hacham is like really, it's all there. It's all there. That it didn't matter what he ate, it was delicious. It didn't matter what he was wearing, it was the best coat or the best garment, and it was the same food, it was the same slice of bread, dry and old, and it was the exact same sheepskin coat, etc. But as far as he was concerned, it was all man. It was living in paradise. And whatever Yagir Kapecha, even though it was objectively, not subjectively, objectively an inferior shoe to everybody else's, whoever you would compare the manufacturer of any shoe throughout the whole world in history, his was inferior. It would get the lowest mark in any rating, and he was so happy because in his mind, I'm being judged by me. I'm not judged by what you are and what you can do. It's none of my business. How brilliant you are and how better you are is none of my business. This is my business. It's a beautiful. Thank you, Hashem, for such a beautiful shoe. It's got 3 corners. Mishuleshet, which we mentioned. Hananya, the Gabbai in Shiner's Vesikim Minyan, so he's huge into gematrias and surafei oisius. He's a Breslov, Baruch Hashem. And he said, Mishuleshet is the oisius mitzvah simcha liyoy sameach tamid. So and that's who the Tam was. So the mitzvah of Tamimus, Rashi tells us on that pasuk, Perek Yud Ches pasuk Yud Gimel in Dvarim, Parshas Shoftim. What does it mean to be a Tam? So Rashi says, Tamim tiyeh Hashem Elokecha, his halech imay b'tmimus. Go with Hashem in Tmimus. Utitzah peloi. Titzah means to expect. Expect HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'lo yitachkor achar hatidos. Don't speculate about what's going to be tomorrow, where this is leading to, what's going to be with the kids, how they're going to stay married, my health. Don't speculate. Ela kol ma sheyava alecha kabel b'tmimus. Whatever comes upon you, accept it with tmimus. V'az tia imo lechelkai. Then you'll be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's quoting actually the Sifri there, so it's not his own words, it's a Chazal. So you'd think that would be literally the Lashon of Rambam. So Tamimus is huge, just doing the mitzvah as is. In the Lashon of the Pasuk, when Yaakov Avinu is called Ishtam, it's very interesting that Rashi says, Kaliboy Kempiv. What's Tam? Tam means complete. The Targum on that Pasuk in Perek Kafei is complete. Tam means shalem. Shalem, it's complete. Shalom, from the word shalom. Shalem means complete. That means before it was complete, before it was Shalem, it was not Shalem. So that means there are pieces that are not working together. Shalom is actually when differences come together. That's in Torah Pei in the Kutimran, in first Chelek. Rav Nachman talks about the Ikar Shalom is when you're mitzaref two opposites. So what are the two opposites here? So Rashi brings it's kaliboy ken piv. What you're thinking and therefore feeling, that's what comes out your mouth. This is an exact contrast to Esav, who was, whatever he was thinking, that's not what came out of his mouth. He was Sayed Befiv. He was brilliant at manipulating, gaslighting, fooling people, and they were sure he was so sincere. Look at the length of his payas and his beard, and it was so obvious he was a Talmud Chacham, and Rabbeinu Zal will tell us it could be a Shindalet. Watch out! But so you got to be very careful. I mean, how will I know? So Kalibay Ken Piv, is he sincere or not? So that's how Esav was, and Yaakov Vinu, he was ish emes. When whatever came out of his mouth, that was a perfect reflection of what he was thinking and therefore feeling. So his wives, all four of them, knew that they could rely. My husband is 100% genuine. He's congruent. Whatever he says, his face, his facial expression, his tone of voice, his choice of words, they are all part of this called tamimus. So this, every time a person says, Rebbe Shalom, help me be a tam, you're getting this mitzvah. Every time you do a mitzvah, betmimus. No frills, no extras, no chumras, just betmimus. And you're happy with it, you're getting this mitzvah. And it applies 24/7, 365, 120. So don't forget Amalek, what he did to attack us in the midbar. Every time you think about it, you get that mitzvah. So if you're doing it at the end of the davening, so you're getting that at least once a day. Don't forget Hashem spoke to us at Matan Torah. That's a mitzvah d'oraisa, and we're getting it from tonight. This is where we all became from Yidden, all from tonight, 3,333 years ago. Don't forget our ungrateful complaining in the midbar. So every complaint falls into that category. Don't forget what Hashem did to Miriam. Every time Lashon Hara, I beg Hashem, please. We at end of our Shemona Esrei, the first thing we beg Hashem before we take 3 steps back is, please make my mouth sealed, and my don't let my tongue speak guile. Don't let me say lashon hara or unkind words or sharp words. Don't forget what happened to Korach. Please, Breslov, I beg you, don't get me into machlokes. Now we have to be very careful here, because Rabbeinu Zal himself said that the only reason his neshama was allowed to come down was because the son said, I've got a solution. There's going to be so much hisnagdus, and it's got less over the last, 20 years or so, last 10, 15, and it's getting more and more popular, to the chagrin of whoever thought that they would be able to squash and squelch Breslov. But machlokes is the solution. And Rav Nachman, as you know, he speaks many times how machlokes actually is something that can really elevate a person. And Rav Nachman lived that way. He suffered so much, but he held onto the promises of how machlokes is like a log that is completely taken away by the river. But the log actually gets elevated by the water. You try to pick up a huge log. I know in my backyard I cut down a number of dead trees, and the guy who did it, he without telling me, he made a wall along the edge of the boundary, and it was so interesting. A huge flood came down in the river at the back of the property, and it flooded a lot of the property, and it lifted all these huge, there were long trunks of trees, and just carried it away, gone. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. you would need a real crane, which is specially designed to be able to carry weight and relocate it. And over here, water, which is like a person's being drowned in water, has for shalom. Machlokes has amazing attributes, because if I'm going to be quiet, that's amazing. A person, how many people go for brachas to someone who's embarrassed in public? Machlokes is an opportunity to keep quiet and still believe in every single tzaddik. That's not always easy. Just believe in them anyway. Don't get stuck inside. Korach is the father of machlokes as far as Chazal are concerned. It's a machlokes where they even got Olam Haba. And Bnei Korach had a hero of Teshuvah, and they got their Olam Haba. But just remember, keep out of machlokes and try and remember it every single day, so that I keep out of machlokes no matter what. It's just not worth it. And what do I know? Do I really know who's a tzaddik and who's not? Do I really know? Just kulam tzaddikim. Just don't go there. Learning Torah is a constant mitzvah, and it's in Tariq. Everyone agrees that. Don't forget your learning. Interestingly, is actually in Tariq. Remember all Tariq mitzvahs. That's according to the Smug. That when you actually look at tzitzis, he actually claims, we talked about that once, that not to forget Tariq mitzvahs. Now, these are separate mitzvahs. Accept upon yourself the yoke of Tariq mitzvahs. That's in the second paragraph of Kriyat Shema. Constantly remember you are an Evid of Hashem. We mentioned that today with the Bris Milah. Look at your tzitzis to remember Tariq mitzvahs. Don't deviate from any of the mitzvahs. Lotasu minadava asher yagidu, and that's Amunah in Hachamim, who are telling us how the mitzvahs are manifest in halakha to the smallest detail. All these are reasons to be basimcha that we're mekayim this. That at least we say, when I'm invited to do an aveira, I'm going to refuse. That alone is already creating malachim who are molich moisei in the derech who he wants to go in. So all this is filling our simcha bank, that this is who I really am committing to becoming. Love every Jew. It's huge, huge, huge. Love every Gad Tzedek. These are mitzvahs that are constant. Don't accept Lashon Hara. Remember the day of Shabbos. Some say it's actually a constant mitzvah. Every single moment you remember Shabbos is coming, you get a mitzvah d'oraisa. Remember what Hashem did to Paro and Egypt. And it's not just what happened in the past. It's to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's nothing you can't do. You could take a whole slave nation out of the most powerful empire in world history, in order that when we stood at Har Sinai, starting tonight onwards, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am your constant, Elokecha, power of all powers, Asher Hotziticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. I took you out of Mitzrayim. If I could take a whole nation out of Mitzrayim, the most powerful empire in world history, then there's nothing I can't do for you. And it's all said in Lashon Yachid to every single person personally. Anochi Hashem, it doesn't say Elokechem, Elokecha. Asher Hotziticha, not Asher Hotzitechem. So it means every single Jew should look at that as not just an event I'm supposed to remember and I get in the mitzvah remembering. No, it's the message of the event. There's nothing you can't do, so I can turn to you for everything. There's nothing I can't ask you to help me with this difficult relationship, this difficult marriage, with this difficult child, with this difficult mother-in-law, father-in-law. It makes no difference what it is. Hashem is telling me, I can take you out. If I can take you out of Mitzrayim, I can take you out of your personal Mitzrayim too. Remember Matan Torah? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. Remember Hashem's kindness to you and your forefathers. We mentioned it a few times. Sefer Haredim brings it. Remember the entire journey that Hashem took you out, Ze'ar Vayim Shana, from Egypt for 40 years in the Midbar. But the Sefer Haredim says that applies to every single Jew, to remember all the kindnesses Hashem did in my lifetime, starting from conception. That's what he brings. It's amazing. Remember what Hashem did to Miriam. So not only don't forget, but you remember. You're just getting multipliers over here. You see, you follow? It's just multipliers. It's a huge reason for a person chazering, as you pointed out earlier. The shmira some mitzvahs is remembering the mitzvahs. How do you remember the mitzvahs? Well, if you've got a photographic memory, you're blessed. Well, I don't know how much your gear the person needs, but if you don't, you're even more blessed, because now you have to keep remembering it and you have to keep chazering it, and by chazering it, that is what counts more than a perfect memory, way more, because now you've got your gear. And for the year, there's much more reward. And if it's really hard because you've got a poor memory, I've got a poor memory. I know it may not look like that, but I've got below average. I failed high school. I failed my O levels. I think I may have shared that with you. I was really not good. Academically, I was not good. I was the best soccer player in my class and arguably the whole school. So that made up for a lot. It's an automatic passport. If you're very athletic, and I happen to be extremely good at soccer, I almost signed up for Chelsea until I found out I didn't even know. I didn't know that you weren't allowed to run on grass on Shabbos. So I went to the trials and I got through the 750 candidates into the last 15. two positions, number 9 and goalkeeper. It kept me out of trouble. Playing soccer saved my life. I thank Hashem frequently that you saved my life. You sent me to school where I was so good at soccer and I was recognized for it that I wasn't interested in some of the other things that the kids were allowed to do in recess. But there's so much to be grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for. How do we get onto this? I don't even remember. To remember
Memory.
What? Memory. Oh, so I had a very poor memory. I was not good in academics, thank you. And I mentioned it earlier, there's no such thing as a bad memory or a good memory. There's trained memory and untrained memory. Roiv Chazara is huge, that's a huge way, but it's also the simcha in the Chazara, and it's Likutei Tfilas, begging Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm chazering this, please help me. Help me to reach a point where it sticks, but not just the shmira of sticking, but I actually remember to be mekayim it, because that's the whole purpose of lilmod ulalamed lishmor, to remember it in order to lasois, and that's right. It's right inside the pasuk. Uzachartem et kol mitzvosai. Urisemosai. You look at the tzitzis. Uzachartem et kol mitzvosai. You can't have a zechira unless you've learnt it. So I have to know Tariq mitzvahs. Uzachartem et kol mitzvosai, so I can remember all of them. And then va'asisemoisam. Now I can do them. And the pasuk's not finished yet, because now Hashem can command me, v'lo taturu acharei levavchem, don't follow what you think, because now I've told you the mitzvahs of the mind, in Tariq mitzvahs, you know which mitzvahs to think and which averas not to think. Lo tisna et achicha belvavecha, lo titor et bnei amecha, lo don't go into revenge, don't go into resentment, don't go into sinner, don't go into kinna, don't go into tachmoid. Don't go where I told you not to go there. I'm not sure if I gave you the mashal. It's like being in the dark, and you have a torch, a flashlight. So it's an English term. Sorry. You have a flashlight in your hand. So the flashlight helps you see the path, so you don't go off the path. So I would think this is great. I've got a flashlight that tells me where to go, but actually, more than the light that's showing me where to go, the darkness is telling me where not to go. So there's nothing wrong with the bad, it's actually good. So all the loita says are really helpful. And in this pasuk, lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei nechem, if I just took those words on their own, I would think, Rebbeinu Shalom, this doesn't make any sense. I'm not supposed to follow my thoughts and what my eyes see. That's all I can see is what my eyes see, and that's all I can think is what I think. What are you talking about? Oh, so Rebbeinu Shalom says, look, please do chazara on the whole pasuk. Isem Isai. The reason to have your tzitzis is because the 8 fringes and the 5 knots, which is 13, plus the gematria of tzitzis, which is 600, between it all, 613. So that's a way to remember. But I'm asking you, look at the tzitzis, so you uzchartem et kol mitzvosai va'asisem oitam. Now that you're doing them, because you remember them, now I can tell you what to think and what not to think. And that's why mitzvahs of the mind are so important. So Rabbeinu Zal, in here, well not in the Likutei Tfilas of Nassan brings, we should remember, I put on tefillin this morning, I put on tzitzit, and I davened. Rav Nachman later on also talks about just being b'simcha, that you said the words. Even if I didn't say it with kavanah and simcha, I said the words. That's also huge. And that means even the Nekuda Tova was not done b'simcha, but it was done. That's already celebration. We are already victorious. But now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, but what about all the mitzvahs of the mind? That's obviously included. I'll share later, not today, where I think it's Meduyak in Rav Nossen's Likutei Tfilas, all the mitzvahs. So it's going on all the mitzvahs of the mind as well, of which there are at least 81 according to Sefer Charedim. So don't desire other people's possessions. That's huge. Don't plan to get them. So one is taiva, lo titaveh, and one is lo tachmoid. Lo tachmoid is not, don't plan to get what you want from someone else, or that you don't even have the money for that, or even if you pay money and then snatch it, that's also lo tachmoid. Lo titaveh means I'm jealous that I don't have what that person has. Remove unnecessary thoughts from your mind. There's a Tariq mitzvah, there's umaltim et orlas levavchem. Umaltim means to cut off. Orla is foreskin. That's how it's always translated. But there's orlas halev. What's the foreskin of the lave? So there's 2 basic opinions. You've got Rashi, who tells you that orla is a lashon of timtum. atum, it means it's blocked. The mind is blocked. The heart, mind is blocked. How do I block a mind? Well, it's very simple. I clutter it with hatred and resentments and anger and bitterness and being down the and thinking I'm so unlucky that I don't have what other people have, and then I'm beating myself up and I'm complaining. Complaining is really bad because now it's really Hashem's fault that all this is happening to me, and I've cluttered my mind. Umaltem, cut off, arlas levavchem. Remove the, says the Radak, it's not only a lashon of atum, it's a lashon of miyutar. Arla is a lashon of miyutar. Miyutar means extra. Remove the extra thinking. What's extra thinking? Anger, disappointment, frustration, marash chayra, atzvus. These are all thoughts. Being done chayv, complaining. It starts over here. All of these start over here. Remove them. So Charedim explains that by removing the clutter, so to speak, of all these ridiculous thoughts that I get stuck on, what ends up happening, I've cleared my mind so that I can hear Tochacha. I can hear when Hashem is correcting me through people. Because otherwise, I just go straight into defense, attack back, and bring out my memory of all your crimes against me, and my mind is closed, totally blocked from hearing what might improve me. And therefore I won't even look in the mirror. Whenever I look in the mirror, I turn the mirror around. It's your fault that I'm unhappy. So everyone else has to change. The circumstances have to change. And I've got myself out of taking responsibility for my own simcha. So comes along Sefer Charedim and others. Umaltem et oras levavchem, chapter 10, verse 16 in Dvarim. This is an amazing, amazing mitzvah. Stop the extra thinking. Now that requires me to be aware of my thinking. So it's interesting, you actually have a mitzvah to be aware of your thinking. We know that from Lo Taturu Achrei Levavchem. So that means I have to know the mitzvahs that apply to my mind, so that when I have a sinner, or natira, or nakama, or kina, or taiva, I recognize it, and now I can be Mesech Das. That is how we show love to Hashem. Rav Nachman says, that's Chazal, but in Mem Tes, where he talks about Hamachshavas Tovas Hema Yetzer Tov, and Machshavas Ras Hema Yetzer Hara. So now I've got a chance that because I know which mitzvah is the Yetzer Hara, Lo Tisna, Lo Titar, Lo Tachmoid, Lo Titaver. Once I know what the mitzvahs are that I'm not supposed to go, the black, I know not to go there. Now you're serving Hashem with love by ignoring that hirur. The hirur comes up, but by actually turning away from it and saying, I'm not going there, and you switch to, Rav Nachman talks about getting involved in learning, or davening, or tehillim, or masamatim, or get busy with a business still, catch up on phone calls.
We learned yesterday.
Sorry?
We learned it yesterday.
Yeah? So you're fully prepared. So
Samachay.
in Samahei, get out of all the things that will distract me. Get into things that will distract me from my Yetzer Hara. But once I know the Yetzer Hara is thought, so that means I have to be aware of my thoughts, and the fact that I would allow a thought to take its route and just carry on, and I keep adding more luggage to the thought about this person, why I don't like them. Oh yeah, that reminds me, and then I go into memories of other things they've said and done, and I pack that on top of this thought, and before you know it, the suitcase of this thought is like, it's bulging all over the place. It's crazy. It's like, you know the carousels after you get off a plane? So imagine a person opening up everyone's cases, just see, no, this doesn't fit me, no, it's not me. What are you doing? It's none of your business. Why would I open up so many thoughts? It's none of my business. God says, get out of there and stay focused on my mitzvahs. I've got so many mitzvahs to stay focused on, and every time I'm stuck in the Marash Chaira and the Atzvas and the Sitra Achra and the Yetzer Hara and listening and giving it power, I give life to my Yetzer Hara by thinking about him. I literally give life to him, and that's why Hesach Hadas is really the only real solution. Let go. How can I let go? I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars in therapy talking about this person. You're telling me just let go? And the answer is yes. Yes, let go. But I can't. Yes, you can. Because over here, it's only my next thought that I'm really responsible for. And if I carry on adding more thoughts about my resentment towards that person, I fall into sinner, and I may even want the karma, or the sweetness of hearing the downfall of that person. That's terrible. That's real sinner. And Hashem says, don't go there. Let go. Turn it into tefillah. Rebbeinu Shalom, I've got sinner against this person. Please help me. Please help me get out of it. I know I don't belong going there, and it just pulls me down. I need your help. I can't do it alone. So, remove unnecessary thoughts. Don't think bad thoughts. It's a separate mitzvah. That's taken from Nishmata Mikol Davara, chapter 20, verse 10 in Dvarim. Nishmata Mikol Davara, which Chazal tell us, don't guard yourself from everything that's evil, bad, and it's referring to my own thinking. So it's learned in Avodah Zarah, Daf Chaf, Shelo yihar adam b'yayim uba lidei keri b'layla. So it's talking about thoughts about beautiful ladies that I shouldn't be thinking, or whatever would be mis'ira. The moment that pops up in my mind, goes somewhere else. And that is how you serve Hashem, be'ava. Because it says, love me bechol levavcha, with shnei yitzarecha, with all your thoughts, the good ones and the bad ones. How do you love Hashem with the bad ones? By ignoring them. As soon as they pop up, go somewhere else. Get rid of it. But be aware. Know your enemy. So, avoid Averas. Ubacharta b'chaim means to avoid Averas. We get the mitzvah of Bacharta b'chaim every time we avoid Avera. Don't leave my Torah. Lo tasu mina. Contemplate Hashem's greatness as manifested in His creation. We learn that from, actually, in Aleinu, but it's taken from Perek Dalet in Dvarim. V'yadat ha'yoyim v'hashavos levavecha ki Hashem hu Elokim b'shamayim mima'al ve'al ha'aretz mitachat. Einoid. So, Sefer Charedim and others learn out from there that when you're thinking about the perfection in Shemayim and Ba'aretz, and the Yadat, you come to know Hashem, then you recognize, Hashem, you're doing this all for me. Every single raindrop, every single leaf that's giving me a cocktail of oxygen, is all to keep me alive. There's so much gratitude, and it's all coming from paying attention to the perfection in the Bria that a person can get this mitzvah every single time he looks at the sky, every time he looks at the clouds, every time he feels the wind. Contemplate Hashem's greatness as manifest in His creation based on that pasuk. Any questions on that? I'm sorry, I just hit over time, but we've covered 45 out of 117 of the mitzvahs. But is this making sense? I don't want you to feel that we're getting away from the Torah. I'm trying to unpack that mitzvah gedola lios simcha. That if I'm going to be immersed in simcha, I got to know what the thoughts are that I can turn to, that are very real, that Hashem wants me to be in His reality. This black dot is not reality. This is bad news. It's bad news because it's news. It's news. All this is not news because it's happening all the time. What's available to us all the time is not news. So the teva of a person is to be mamshich after the Marash Korah and Pagami Hazman and Mikre Hazman, and before you know it, I get sucked into here. That's all I'm noticing, and that's all I'm paying attention to. And when I talk about it and pay money to talk about it, Rebbeinu Shalom, I pay money to complain and talk about this. Guess what happens next? I'm watering the weeds. That's what Chaim Kramer told me. What am I watering the weeds for? It's just going to grow more and more and more until the garden is taken over. And I get sucked into this black hole. And when I talk to you about, you don't seem to understand. If you understood how difficult this marriage is, you would not be telling me to say thank you to Hashem. And I'm so not willing to let go. I'm so invested. I've got a momentum of complaints that who's going to listen to me? You don't understand me. And before you know it, I'm not willing to let go. And Ram Nachman says, please let go. He actually says the reason why I wouldn't let go, I think he brings it. Where does he bring it? In Sichas Aran, what's the reason why I wouldn't let go of my complaining? I don't want to be mimayat, be yisurin. I don't want to play it down. I want to play it up. I want to. Okay, you see how much I need chazara. I'm embarrassed to say how many times I've learnt the sefer, and I still need to remember where everything is. So, any questions?
I just want to say that what you're doing is not just telling me about the Liyas B'Simcha Tony, explaining why it's Mitzvah Gedola. Because one of the big questions are, what is there a Mitzvah Gedola or is there a Mitzvah Ketana? Every mitzvah is a Mitzvah of Hashem.
Right.
And like you asked the question, it's not in the Minyan HaMitzvahs. The Teretz is, it's in all the mitzvahs. It's in all the mitzvahs.
Right.
I once heard for a Blues King Zechat Tzaddik B'Bracha. So he said, that we're learning, I think it was Torah Hey. We're learning Torah, I think it was Torah Hey. So he said, where Schar Mitzvah, the Rebbe talks about Schar Mitzvah. So he said that we make a bracha every day. On every mitzvah that we do, it's Asher Kedishon Mitzvah. So we were commanded to do the mitzvah.
Right.
What is the only mitzvah that a person can do that is healing from himself?
Right. Brilliant.
Simcha. To do the mitzvah it's mitzvah Gedola. By the way, Rabbi Yaini said, what?
The Tkunis HaShuvim says, I think it's the Tkunis HaShuvim, says the Tkunis HaShuvim, but he answers the known steer that how is it that we get schar mitzvah b'ha'alma? There is no schar mitzvah b'ha'alma. This world actually belongs to Esau. We are not living, and we are mechuv to do it. So for what we are doing above our chiyuv, which is simcha, this is how we live, and this is that's supposed to that we are living. We are it's just that our survival is of what we are doing, yesim and achiyuv, because technically we can put on film for 1 minute, as we just said before. The fact that we are extending the time of the film. And the same thing is with there's the Shabbos that we do. Everything that we do, yesim and achiyuv, this is our survival. And the simcha of the mitzvah, this is extra what we are adding to the
So what you're saying, which is huge, the word Gedola is in reference to
it's extending it.
The exponential,
the
multiplier.
It's multiplying all the mitzvahs by so it's mitzvah Gedola.
It makes it bigger. It makes every mitzvah bigger.
Every mitzvah becomes bigger because of the simcha.
Right.
Mitzvah Gedola. I saw it somewhere. I think I saw it in. I think here. Rabbeinu Bechaya brings. I think he brings it here in the back. I'll read it to you because he brings here. The Rabbeinu Bechaya says that is because there is no. The only reference to simcha other than the samach the Bechaya is tachas hashaloi avadus Hashem l'gachav is simcha too.
Yeah.
So he brings here
Rabbeinu Bechaya.
Tachas Hashem ba'avdei Hashem is over lo'yihoysa avodah b'simcha l'fi shechayev adam al simcha b's'askei b'mitzvah v'asimcha b'maisa mitzvah b'fnei atzma.
Yeah.
Ben Bechai brings from Tachas Hashalei Vada that milvada schar before. Listen to this: milvada schar sheyesh lo ala mitzvah. Besides the schar that he gets for the mitzvah, yesh lo schar ala mitzvah, ala simcha. That simcha is the mitzvah because v'asimcha b'maisa mitzvah b'fnei atzma. It's its own mitzvah.
It must be that there is one level of simcha that we have a chiyuv. Just to elaborate on the multiplication of the simcha itself, because being that the Pasuk says that the whole punishment is we earned actually the punishment by not being the simcha, right? So it must be that to some extent we have a chiyuv of simcha, and this is like any other mitzvah.
Right, because it's all
regardless of simcha. You said the mitzvah gedola is with simcha, the multiplication, or the fact that I'm more happy than just the core chiyuv of it, that is something that can actually multiply multiple times, and for that we have yesim and achiyuv, because if we're getting punished for not being the simcha, that's already like any other of the six.
Perhaps you can also say, the Rebbe says in Torah of Gimel, we learned it together, that simcha hainu ha-kedusha. That simcha is kedusha. What is the kedusha? We explained that the kedusha is my nefesh alikis, my nefesh, my chelik alikam imal. Because the simcha is coming from internal. It's coming from a real place of simcha. Ha simcha, the Rebbe says. The simcha is the place of kedusha. That's an infinite place. So if you get to do mitzvah gedola b'simcha tami, you're going into simcha. You're going into infinity. So it's mitzvah gedola. You're going into the place of kedusha. You're going into infinity.
But we have to ignite it.
What?
We have to ignite it.
So you need to do something external. It's because the external circumstances are being mashpia to be ba'atzis amaras chayra. So the Rebbe says you're stuck in the external. I have an eitzah also, milsa d'shtusa. Do something external to bring you joy, to be able to trace it back to Hasimcha, to Kedusha, which is mitzvah gedola is b'simcha tom.
Rabbi Rietti, you actually gave me mamish a gewaldige pshata. I always was bothered by this question. And they all ask about it. Where should he go? What do you mean he's exil of going in the darkness?
Right.
By your muscle explaining with the flashlight glowing that the dark is doing for you much bigger favor than not to go there. So basically, you can apply it. You can actually interpret the pasuk that it speaks when you have a light. You go. You have a choice where to go. And the dark is actually showing you not to go there, but you choose to go to reroute.
You're a fool for going off the path and going to the right or to the left.
Go into the dark.
Excellent.
We're learning Teres HaMachalef now. Also, the Rebbe talks about Mishpat, that it's the Derech HaMamutza. She'ein ha'noita li'yamin l'smail. So someone this morning said to me, beautiful, I went to have in Ar Shlomo.
Yeah.
So he says, Stam, and it gave me a good insight. He says, Makabel oil malchus shemayim. What's oil? Oil is a yoke. You know what a yoke is? Yoke is heavy.
Weight.
It's something weight. And whenever you hear that, it somehow doesn't sit right with being Makabel oil malchus shemayim. So he says, no, the yoke is a director. When you're carrying a yoke, there's weight on both sides, right? So it's giving you direction not to go, not to yamin, not to small. It's giving you direction. It's not yoke from the heaviness, Shabbai. It's I need this as my navigator, as to be
keeping me from going to
the right. Gewaldig.
Shlomo Melech says, "Tov lageber ki Yisrael ben urav." Why? Because the yoke actually is the greatest benefit for you.
For sure, because
if you practice it while you're still young, and you connect to it, then it's not so hard. But unfortunately, when we are young, we don't have the cycle that
bottom line, b'simcha mitzvah gedola liyay b'simcha liyay b'simcha mitzvah gedola liyay b'simcha liyay b'simcha mitzvah gedola liyay b'simcha mitzvah gedola liyay b'simcha liyay b'simcha Just he said that the Erev Nosson brings it that the biggest simcha is that ani mezera Yisrael, right? So and my brothers I add as at first I said Shaloi Sani Goy, but that I was zeicha to be born in the chutzner of this tzaddik that gives us every prescription and every remedy and insight and hope, and he took responsibility for us. How much more do we have to be the simple that we know from this tzaddik? That in itself is like dance all day and night, no matter where I am, no matter what I am. This tzaddik, I was fortunate enough to know from him and to connect him.
Right.
Yep. How much more do we have to be the simple? Yeah, Mati?
Yeah.
We were zeicha. We are zeicha.
Yeah.
And we can make so many more people be zeicha. That's our mission. The mission is,
mentioned the Rambam of Sefer Mitzvahs. The Rambam quotes, it says, the mitzvah of Ahavas Hashem. He said that every minute is a mitzvah. The Rambam says that how do you know if you have Ahavas Hashem? And when a person, the nature is that when a person loves something and he's truly in love with something, naturally he will preach about it, and he will want his close friends also to love it, also to connect in the same way. And this is how you can test your Ahavas Hashem. He said you should be zoiche and make others.
100%.
When you make others, that's a proof.
That
you-
tasting
You're
something
passionate,
delicious.
if you're passionate
That
about
you're
something, you share it with
tasting
others.
something delicious. Yeah. Lishma, lilmai, ulalame.
Yeah.
The Rebbe says in a different Torah, he brings a Chazal, I think, that Torah, Loimed Amanas, Torah, Mazet Torah is Chaz, the Gemara says.
Yeah.
Torah is Loimed Amanas Lam, that the Ikr Limud is Amanas Lam. So if you're tasting this delicious, delightful Torah, how could you not share it with somebody else? How could you not? If you you're right. If you don't, there's a chassan in your house. Yeah, 100%.
Rabbi Yanis, you want to share something? Just say
So
chassan.
I found the Sikha Saman. It's just the first few words. Amma acha kol hayisurim. He said, after all the suffering, afal pichein Hashem yisparach meitiv imanu. Hashem is still very good with us. Rak she'ein anu roitzim lahaktin et hayisurim. The problem is not recognizing how much Hashem is good. Is I don't want to make the Yisurin less. So I'm going to inflate it. I'm not going to deflate it. V'gam be'emes b'vatay einam Yisurim katanim. Even though the person's going through HELL in this world, so they're not Yisurim katanim. Aval neged dveikus echad laHashem yisparach masha zoichen le'ezer bechina shel dveikus b'machshava oy bebechinas acheret. Just one thought can actually be mevatel all the Yisurin. Kol ha-Yisurin einam klum neged zeh. Against that one thought of dveikus, all the Yisurin fall apart. V'al yadam be'atzman miskavim u'mdabkim elav yisparach. It's through these thoughts that we can come close to Hashem. So he gives extreme examples. If a person, Hashem, is ill, who's taking my health away? It's Hashem. Also, now I can come closer to you. Or if Hashem, I'm just going to say it in third person, if someone Hashem loses a child, that's the example he gives. It's Hashem who's taking the child. Now that child is closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what's the person complaining about? It's their loss, but not the child's loss. The child is gaining. That's the end of that sikha. But the point is, psychologically, if you want to call it that, I don't want to be mucked in the Yisur. I don't want to lessen them, and so I just got to tell you. But the question is, when does it stop? Can you help me turn it around? And if not, and if you're not listening, you're not getting it. I'm going to go to someone else, and I'll get it off my chest with them. And before you know it, I'm living inside it. The black dot has sucked me in.
Sheyav Hashem Yachiach. If Hashem does something to you, that means you're close to him, he loves you.
There's an Eitzah from the Chovs Talmidim. He writes that if somebody has real,
Is it a
real
Piasetzner?
if a person has real diabetes, real things that he has to take care of it, he should take like 10 minutes a day. Take this 10 minutes. Say, okay, these 10 minutes are going to be only for all real things that I have to think. You say about extra thoughts. Okay, after 10 minutes, okay, I thought about it. Now I can put it aside.
Move on.
Till tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll take another 10 minutes to think about it.
The Pelearic says very similar to it. He says that it's a difference of having a concern or be concerned. Having a concern is get up in the morning, the first 10 minutes, daven for it, have a concern. Yes, that's the tachlis of it. But you should daven. You should make a plan for it. Yes. But being concerned, that's being
Right. So, amazing. Shkoyach.
But coming back to Mati's question is actually something that was questioned last night by the Shiur. How do you? What's the difference? How can you remember everything if the Rebbe explains that you only have one machshava existing?
Correct.
So how does it get stored? The answer was that get it stored in the memory, right? So
I'll give you, going back to our original mashal, which we started this year with, is you're worth, let's say, $400 billion. So you don't have to count every single dollar to make sure it's still there. You know that's what you're worth. So what ends up happening it's the awareness that I have all that will allow me that when Has v'Shalom something's missing, I don't fall apart. $1 million, $1 billion, you got to be joking. There's $999 million still left. So I'm gonna die over loss of $1 million. Now, for anyone here, I'm assuming a loss of $1 million might cause them to not have a great night's sleep tonight. But if I know that's what my true worth is, so I don't need to be actually counting it. It's just the knowledge alone, the awareness alone, and that's why I think Rav Nachman singles out Shelo Asani Goy, Shani Zerem Yisrael. There can't be any. I can't find any pagam in that.
It's flawless.
It's flawless. But the bigger picture of that is Tarek Mitzvahs. The bigger picture of that is we've been given everything we need in this world to enjoy this world, even with Yisurin, and invest in Olam Haba in eternity. So just that knowledge alone. So I agree, it's not something I can start. Okay, I've got to go through my list of mitzvahs which will pick me up, or the list of things that Rav Nachman says these are good reasons to be besimcha. But knowing that's in my bank account, because I have chazed it enough times, that I really believe it. I really believe it.
So having a balance sheet is what the Nachman says in Torah Samach, right? That this is what's connecting it. Is it like? I mean,
Remember,
we learned that the Oisies don't want to leave you.
Yes.
The Oisies want to stick together, and they want it to become like one plant.
Right.
So
Someone was
we
asking, how could you think
that
of the bays if you're not
interconnect them? And we couldn't understand what is the interconnection.
If you're not paying attention in the moment.
Yes.
So,
if you only have one machshavas.
Yes,
I'm already
I
in
think-
Maseches Kalayim. How am I still in Maseches Brachos? I mean, how does that interconnect?
So as you know,
Stay
Roiv
together.
Chazara means that the information is in there, but we don't have to worry about it because it's simply there. In the real big picture, Rav Nachman wants us to finish Kol HaTorah Kula for the simple reason that in Olam HaEmes we'll be taught everything about whatever we learned. So for that alone, I should try and finish Kol HaTorah Kula at least once in my lifetime, so that I'm only going to be taught what I learned. So I'm going to learn everything, even though I don't understand it deeply.
So I touched
But
it.
the neshama,
I've touched it.
the neshama knows it all, remembers it all. There's no such thing as forgetfulness.
saying yesterday, it goes on a chip. We were saying it goes on like a
Yeah.
like an
You
SD
pick
card.
it up like before you leave the office. You download everything
Download.
into your memory.
Yes.
It's all there.
It should just be there,
Right.
and you will elaborate when you get on the plane.
But one of the many things I love about Rabbeinu Zal, Rav Nachman, is that even the shikha has a huge upside, huge, and he even says, I think it's in Chafav in Sichas Haran, that many people will say that shikha is a doubt, it's a negative. So he said, by me, it's very virtuous. Why? Because if I were to remember all my averas and all my mistakes, I would just like be down on myself. It's like I couldn't be able to carry it. So I've got shikha for that. But also, even shikha for Torah means so now I have to go over it again. So, and if it's hard for me, then it's at least 100 times worth more than if it weren't hard for me, because that's the Avos Reb Nosson Perek Vav Ois Gimel says Mutav Mitzvah Achad B'Tzar Mimea Shaloi B'Tzar. So if a person's got a poor memory, I should be celebrating because it's harder because I don't remember. But I think in answer to your question, I don't have to remember every ois of every word of all the tefillah, but the awareness that Hashem is actually connecting them all because it came out my mind and my mouth. That awareness is what counts.
Amazing. Shkoyach. Next week's Shiur Mitzvah will be at 9:15 a.m.
Yeah, thank you.
again,
If you don't
so-
mind, have to be up.
Okay.
Can you make why?
Hopefully Tzvi will show up.
He zooms it. He even come. Usually.
Shkoyach. Thank you everyone for attending today. Wow, amazing. Shkoyach.
Good.